Good evening. Welcome back. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Six Rings Canes. Vish, DJ, Larry Bluestein, and here joining me here on the show tonight. What's going on, fellas? How you guys doing?
Good, good.
Can't complain. Football's back.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, it's exciting because we've got a lot of things to cover. We obviously went through, we previewed fall camp, but fall camp is going. It's going strong. Obviously, today was the first day of full pads, and there was no media access, which I love it. I love it. That means what is how about this? Before we even get to it, what does that mean to you, Vish? No media access, full pads.
Means football's back. Means they're working on they're probably game prepping and putting in offense and defense. Like this is happening.
You know what it means to me? You know what it means to me? It means that they are lighting each other up. They're going hard and they're playing Mario Cristobal football. And if there is anybody that knows what that's about, Blue, what does that mean to you? If full pads are on, no media access.
Means they don't trust the media anymore.
Well, yeah, right. That's the obvious. Yeah, for sure.
No,
Smart move. Smart move.
yeah. Well, he doesn't. You know what? Here's the thing. He doesn't want the little things to supersede anything that's going on. So the less people that you have around, the less people you have to worry about. And like you said, I think they kind of like eased into this the last few days. Now they're in pads, and like you guys said, they're cracking heads and they're playing football and they're gearing up for that opening game against Bethune-Cookman and trying to put the best 22 on the field. And this is a time where this is what's going to separate the men from the boys. This is like back in the day, Don Shula, when he had his camps. I mean, you were either in or you were not, not doing well. And back then, you had 3 a days plus film sessions. So a whole different story now in all sports, college, NFL, high schools, that a lot of them only have one time that you could be with the kids and are the players, and then you could do film and you could do some classroom stuff. But I remember when they used to come in. I even covered the Dolphins back in the day, and I think it was like the late 70s, where they'd have a 7 o'clock practice, a 2 o'clock practice, and a 4:30 practice.
That's crazy.
And then right after dinner, they would have like meetings. So, and this is when all the guys had to live on at Biscayne College, St. Thomas University, when they had the dorms, and so you were there. So, I mean, when you saw your family was after all this stuff was over. Nowadays, things are a little bit more lax. There's all these player union things that'll, get in your face. But to get back to what's going on, this is what it's all about. This is Mario Cristobal, taking this thing one step further than he did in the spring, because now you have a full group of players on board. Very few injuries. We talked about a couple of them last week, but. I mean, this is where it's all happening. This is where the positions are going to be won. Even though we know that the Tyler Van Dykes and players like that are always going to be penciled in at number one. Listen, if you don't get the job done in the next 2-3 weeks, then you're going to find yourself sliding down that depth chart. And that's how you build a winner, whether it's here or whether it's Alabama or whether it's anywhere. And you play your best football players. And practice is everything. They Allen Iverson was never a great practice player, and he just didn't like practice. Well, he wouldn't play here. And I've heard Mario Cristobal said this: you practice how you play, and if you don't, then you won't.
I agree. It's just exciting to me. Now that they finally put the pads on, we're going to see, like you said, the separation now is really going to start, even from the guys that maybe we're seeing run with the ones now, may not be running with the ones much longer. And you're going to tell a significant difference on the physicality of some of these guys that are coming in and the guys that have gotten better. And I think that's what's going to be important now to see once these pads get put on. Really quick, before we go on any further, we've got a great guest coming on in about 5 minutes as well. So we'll definitely get it cracking with him. Really quick, before we get to DJ, I want to talk about one of our sponsors, because today count it. We got 2 sponsors today.
Nice,
Baby. We
nice.
got 2 sponsors today, so we do really appreciate it. Let's talk about Prize Picks really quick. Prize Picks is the official daily fantasy app of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Make sure you're using code 5, F-I-V-E, when you sign up. Prize Picks will match your initial deposit up to $100. And what's great about it is you don't have to spend it all at once. You don't have to use it all at once. So you can play the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, the NFL. You can do so many things that you can mix and match players as well from different leagues and different sports, which is really neat. Here's how it works, right? Pick 2 to 5 players. Then you play the over-under on individual categories. It all depends on how much you want to win is how many players you pick. Make sure you go to prizepicks.com to sign up with the code 5 F-I-V-E. They will match your initial deposit up to $100. Prizepicks.com is the word. Make sure you check them out. DJ, really quick before we before we bring our guy on. So I was mentioning pads, right? So the pads for me signifies that practice is really starting, right? Because when you're in shells, when you're in just your jersey, anybody can make mistakes and drop footballs, or anybody can look like an absolute, All-American, right? So now when you put on the pads, you get the alligator arms, or you get the guys that kind of separate themselves and say, I don't give a crap. This is my time to shine. I'm going to go ahead and ball out. And you're going to see some people get hit really hard, and some people say, hey, welcome to college football. Let's go. How do you feel about what it means to put on the pads and get going?
Well, putting on the pads separates the men from the boys. It truly does. Having been a team manager for a football team, I would go out to all the summer practices, and you could tell as soon as you put the pads on who was going to make it and who was just not going to cut it. And it truly does separate the men from the boys. It's another step towards the opener for Miami, in this case, Bethune-Cookman, and it's just one more signal that football is that much closer, and I cannot wait, especially this season. It's nice to have something to finally look forward to, right?
Oh my God, 3 weeks away, right?
Yep.
September 3rd, 3 weeks away.
September 3rd.
Woo. Yeah, that's gonna be fun. I know Blue. I know we'll be out there for the game.
Yeah.
And we'll be checking them out.
I hope pregame. We'll have a little pregame.
Oh, you know it. We'll do a little pregame, but we'll act like we're okay when we go up to the press box.
Will they let us back on the field this year before the games?
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. I really hope that they start letting us back on the field. I don't
think there's anybody at Miami that will answer questions. So, so we'll never find out until we're there.
Oh man, ain't that the truth, my friend?
Trial by fire, I guess, right?
I feel like
we did it a couple years ago.
Blue, I feel like you could just walk out there and be like, you know who I am, right?
Nah. I've seen too many of these people get pulled over by cops, and they go, "Don't you know who I am?" And I don't ever want to be that person.
Yeah, you don't want to pull that card, right? Yeah.
No, never. No.
I hear you. I totally get that.
It didn't work, Vish, because we were going to have a guest on tonight, and it didn't really work. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Which,
well.
We'll get that taken care of here.
Yeah.
Soon. Without further ado, let's bring on our guest, and so he can. You know what? What's up, Johnny John? What's going on, buddy?
What's up, guys?
What's up, man? John? You know what? John gets to hear our mid show sponsor, which is going to be a fun. It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be exciting for you guys. Okay. And you get to hear it because we'll right in between us talking about camp, practice notes and stuff like that. I'm going to throw a complete curveball at everybody, and it's going to be pretty funny. So, but it's going to be fun. We love it. We appreciate the sponsor. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But first off, so I was talking to these guys, John. First question I have for you is, they finally put the pads on today, right? No media access. We all kind of stated what that means to us and what that means for the program. What does that mean to you that there was full pads today and no media access? I mean, obviously there's some people that can get in and check it out, but what does it mean to you?
I think that's kind of a switch in mentality that I think Coach Cristobal wanted to instill on the players. It's like, all right, fun's over, show's over. It's time to knock each other's heads in, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. So, yeah, it was probably, it probably got ugly out there in a good way. You know what I mean? He wanted to kind of separate, men from the boys, so to speak. So I think, yeah, he didn't want any distractions. Basically, he wanted to kind of switch up the mentality and the speed, and to kind of encourage the guys to get after it.
Yeah. Like you said, and like Blue said, they're going to be cracking heads, and they're going to be hitting
Yeah.
them, hitting everybody hard, and because that's the way that Mario Cristobal. I mean, that's just his makeup, right? That's his mentality. That's the way he does things. He did that. He did that as a player. He's done that as a coach all the way through, and you see it in his teams. His teams are very physical. His whoever it is that he's coaching up, the offensive line, the offense. There's a sense of physicality. You bring in the other coaches like Charlie Strong and Kevin Steele, and so on and so forth, and now you've got yourself a defense that's no nonsense. Also, that's going to be aggressive. That's going to tackle better than anybody in the country. Hallelujah. And just about everything else is going to be done on a different level. So I'm excited to see what happens down the road with these practices if they open it up a little bit to some of the media, because I really want to talk about this, right? 15 before we even get into camp practice. We'll make this short because I don't think that this deserves too much time. But I think, John, we heard it with Max last night talking about it a little bit with A Black. Um, this whole situation of journalistic integrity per se. I don't consider myself a journalist. I'm not a journalist. By the way, Vish writes better than 99. No, actually, he's the best writer in South Florida when it comes to Miami Hurricanes football. If you ask me, or anything that he writes, but he doesn't even consider himself a journalist. Okay, we do this for the love and for the passion of the team, and we care and we support this team. We might talk bad about them per se and say, hey, they're doing this, they're not doing this right. Yeah, you're never going to hear us knock a player on the team. Blue, he's another one. He's not a journalist. He's a media guy, but he's more of a passionate guy when it comes to this program as well, to college football as a whole. Danny writes for the Big Ten. And Danny, this is not a knock on you. You're an excellent writer too, but Vish is just a man. Let's just be honest, right? Like he's
100%.
he's the man.
100%.
Vish has a good editor. I'm not going to mention who it is, Gary.
Gary, who would that be?
But my point is, this whole situation with certain people in the media bashing players that they see practice for literally 15, 20 minutes. So they get to see the portion that Mario wants you to see, which is the crap, right? Which is the slow stuff, the kind of the stretching out and the loosening up and the warming up and the one-on-ones a little bit and kind of, that kind of stuff. So when you're out there and you're bashing a player and saying that he has no, he's never going to play it down in football at a certain position. He should switch positions. And he's literally been on campus for 2 days. I know he got here in the spring and summer, but he should have graduated like last month. Let's be honest, right, from high school.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a kid that has all the goods, and I don't want to mention players either, but like, there's no why do certain media members decide that this is a good idea to do this? It just has no place in it for me, and I think that they got to be better at that. And we'll start with you, John. Like, what's your opinion on what happened there?
I think it's pretty simple. It's them trying to make a splash with a quote or whatever, and trying to get a statement or a headline to go viral and get themselves some attention. I think it kind of comes down to that, because that's if you've been around this game, around this team for a while, a freshman, let's say, player, a young player like that just got here is going to take them time to develop. Okay, so you're kind of going, some people kind of I feel like that's what's probably happening here. Because anyone who knows this game and knows football, yeah, it takes time to develop, especially that position. So, yeah, I found that kind of odd. Let the young man develop and show what he's capable of, especially at least give him a year before we bash him. That's just my thought.
Blue, you've been around for quite a while. You've seen players come and go. You've seen media members come and go, but you've also seen players sometimes not start off so hot, or start off not looking as good in shells than they do when the pads get on and when game time comes around, right? So, and young guys and old guys the same, and then you see some development here and there, and you've seen thousands of players that do that, right? That start off slow, develop, and become really great football players. why? What is the thought process behind that specific comment saying, "Hey, this guy doesn't deserve to, play this position at the University of Miami. He should switch positions now." Like, is it too early to be talking like that, or is there ever a place where you can bash a player that's on the team that you cover on a daily basis?
Well, first of all, you're talking to the wrong guy when it comes to bashing, because I don't
That I
think I've
know. I
ever
know that.
bashed anybody. I mean, I promote the kids, and that's what I do. I mean, you could be balanced, and you could be fair, but at the same time, you got to understand, especially somebody like that. You're dealing with somebody, that we mentioned before that really should be in high school, should just been graduating from high school as a young guy. He has an opportunity, he's a future guy. Why even address somebody that really is not even in the mix right now? I mean, if you want to talk about your starting quarterback, you want to start about your starting wide receiver, listen, we were objective enough after the spring game to say right now, Miami just does not have a number one. Jacoby kind of let us down. Yeah, he caught passes at the end of the game. But in that context, you're only doing your reporting. You're only, being fair. You're being fair. Because if you're sitting there drooling on everybody and, he's the best thing in the world, no one's going to take you serious. So if you say something about a player, I mean, make sure that he's in the mix. I mean, why are you going to take a shot at somebody, and forget the shot. Why are you going to be having a difference of opinion on somebody right now who's next year at this time? Let's talk about that person, because then it's more valid. Right now, it means nothing. And I don't understand that. But that's what I said. If you're going to talk about the running game and you're going to make an impression on Cheney and say, you know what, right now you got two other guys plus a incoming freshman, Thad Franklin, you had all these running back, and you make your opinion on what the running back room is. That's your opinion. That's an opinion. You're not hurting anybody. It's just in some instances, if you watch practice, it may be a factual thing that, that Rooster's not running as well, or, but that's something that you have to, be, because like I said, no one's going to listen to you if all you're going to say is, oh, he's the best thing in the world. Or, there's some other people in the media that all they'll do is be negative. Right. So, I mean, and people get tired of that as well. So you got to be balanced. Call it like it is, but at the same time, ease up a little bit, especially at the college level. These guys are only 21, 22, 20, in that range, 18, so 19, 20, 21, 22. I mean, that's young to be taking shots, and they're defenseless because they're not going to answer back. And especially under Mario Cristobal, he won't let them do that. So you're in a tough situation. I just think that a reporter in this day and age needs to be a little bit more responsible. And, people rely on them, but at the same time, you've got both sides. You can't diss the player and just to appease the fans.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Anybody, Vish, I know you want to say something.
Yeah, John touched on this a little bit. I do think when you're trying to generate content daily, hourly, and drive clicks, you're going to put a lot of garbage out there. And I think we're all kind of plagued by that. If you've got pressure to every day I got to come up with a take, there's no take after 15 minutes of warm-up. I'm sorry, there's just nothing interesting there. But you got to get something to get people to click on your website, so you come up with this absurd, take where you're trying to judge someone off of that. I do think, look, there is a place to be critical of player performances, but I think it's always fair to at least talk about, well, these are things they can do better. Where's the growth opportunity? There's always, like, if you're going to say, work on his passing accuracy, that's one thing. To say, like, well, he can't throw the football. Ridiculous, right? And so I think he was intentionally over the top to drive traffic to his website. And you know what we're talking about, so it kind of worked. So, but that's, it's got, you gotta get, if you just take like a modest take, like, yeah, maybe he didn't throw well, not a big deal. That's not going to drive traffic. It's got to be, no, move him to wide receiver, right? That's the take. That's kind of like driving the traffic. But I do think it's important to be fair when you criticize. And as Blue said, these are kids, like, and I don't believe in giving up on these kids. Period. So, you know, he kind of already gave up on the
Yeah,
quarterback
pretty
5 minutes
much.
into campus, which is ridiculous. But even then, there's always ways to improve and get better, right? You didn't end up at the University of Miami because you cannot play at all. So the notion that any of these players are just completely like, nope, you can't play is ridiculous. Like everyone misses on evaluations, but at the level of football we play, the kids that are poorly evaluated that aren't as good as we thought coming in are still amazingly talented football players. And when you lose that perspective and you just want to fire off a take, you say ridiculous things like this. And it's, he got his clicks, he got his traffic. I'm sure he got some ad revenue off of it. He doesn't have his integrity though, and that's what he gave away.
Fair
And
enough.
so when you put your name on something, you should own it. So he should be known as the guy who thinks he can evaluate quarterbacks based on 15 minutes of stretching.
Fair enough.
Yeah, he should carry that around.
He should. He should. DJ, we'll end it with you here real quick, and then we'll move to Cap.
I'll just say real quick, Vish kind of nailed it on the head. I mean, these guys know that hot takes will drive readers to their website. And like Vish said, we're talking about it right now. And then when you look at Twitter, right, if I favorite a tweet, it will show up on Jazz's timeline. So then that gets more traffic, more comments, etc. I mean, these guys know how to play the social media game, but that doesn't always lead to good journalism. I mean, a lot of these guys have never even been a part of a football team, and they're over here evaluating prospects and this, that, and the other thing. It's kind of sad, especially when we look to a lot of these guys for valuable information, but it's all about clicks and algorithms and which take can generate the most traffic. It's not the right way to do things journalistically, but that's how it is.
Amen to that. All right. Enough of giving that guy, because we just gave him more exposure here. But it is what it is. I think it's worth addressing, because we're all guys here that love the program, and you'll never hear us bashing a kid like that. But anyways, kind of moving along here. Let's kind of get into a little bit fall camp, right? Like, so we talked about last week, what we wanted to see, who we thought was gonna be with the ones in day one on Friday.
I've actively tried to destroy the tape, man, but
you can't. Man.
Unfortunately, the digital age, you can't do that.
But listen,
hey, DJ and I were correct on 3 of 90, so that's not so bad.
Thanks for those 3, Blue. Thanks for those 3. I owe you one.
Yeah, no kidding. That was some interesting stuff. So before we even kind of talk about who we thought were the ones, well, we won't even talk about that, because I think it's interesting to see who came out starting off with the ones in camp, at least in certain positions, right? The only position that I think we saw a lot of movement around, we didn't really see necessarily a starting 5 per se, is that offensive line. I think we saw that offensive line do a lot of shifting, a lot of moving around because of the injury to Zion Nelson. He's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks, and so he probably won't play the first game. I'm just assuming that he's not going to play against Bethune-Cookman. That's probably a good assumption. But you're seeing a lot of things on that side of the football. We also heard that Jonathan Campbell was probably going to be the guy at left tackle. Now we're hearing Jalen Rivers is the one getting a lot of the snaps there. He's really doing well. He's impressing a lot of people. And we all knew, right? He was probably the best offensive lineman last year before his injury. Probably still one of the best offensive linemen now. So him being at left tackle, really not that surprising. Overall, first week of practice so far, John, we'll start off with you since you're our guest. What can you get from, the first 4 or 5 practices already?
I get that Coach Cristobal really wants to, try different combinations and experiment with different combinations of guys to see what gel and see what works, which I think is smart. I think a lot of, especially coaches in his position, they do that. So I wasn't surprised by that. Loved hearing what I heard about Daryl Jackson, at D tackle. I think he's going to be a problem. I've been saying that for weeks, and I'm glad it's coming to fruition already. Our D-line is deep. One thing that I'm wondering about, though, and it's probably a good problem to have, is I'm hearing Jalen Rivers is doing a great job with his reps at left tackle. Say he dominates these first couple games at left tackle. Say we pull the upset off against Texas A&M, and Rivers is at left tackle, Campbell's at right tackle. What the hell do you do with Zion at that point? Which is a good problem.
Yeah, I mean, we know. I think, you know, Jalen Rivers is such a good offensive lineman that I think he can play any position. He can play multiple positions, so you probably have to kick him inside. I'm just assuming that he's going to be better than. And it's not a knock on the other guys because we're still building depth there, and
Yeah.
you can probably say that that's still one of the positions that we're still trying to, create an identity with Cristobal and Mirabal there. Obviously, it's getting there, but there's still some lack of depth you can probably see, or lack of development, right? Not necessarily depth, because you've got Jonathan Dennis who's there now. You've got Sangapolu, who I think is going to start at right guard anyways. You've got some of the guys behind them. You got Chris Washington, McLaughlin, some of the other interior guys, DJ Scaife, and so on and so forth. So I think that, and the team, by the way, I know a lot of them are really high on DJ Scaife as well. Just kind of talking off of that, I think you would just have to probably just kick him inside and then put Zion Nelson out there.
What a great problem to have, though.
Right,
huh?
right.
I mean, we haven't had that in 20 years, so
no kidding. No kidding.
I do wonder if, especially if he misses the first game, definitely misses the second game, if Zion's not back in there and has to work his way back in over the first half of the season. Because, I mean, if he hasn't played the first two games, you can't just throw him out there against A&M as a starter. I don't think he would start in that case. So
yeah,
he might have to work his way back into the starting role. I don't think it's just going to be given to him.
Yeah, I think that if he doesn't play against Southern Miss, the second game of the season, I just don't see
Middle Tennessee State, right?
Middle Tennessee. I think Middle Tennessee State is after Texas A&M. Well, whatever. It's one of those things. Either way, I don't see him starting against Texas A&M, especially if he doesn't play those first two games. So, Blue, what's your take on what have you heard or liked so far? What's the first 4 or 5 practices? What have they told you so far about this team, if anything?
Yeah, no, I've heard, but then again, it's tough to make judgments when you're in a pair of shorts. So, and you really, you get, I think you actually get more heated deals because everybody wants to hit. By yesterday, everybody wanted to hit everybody. I've heard that the enthusiasm has just been out of the place. I mean, just everybody is sky high for this. I think their off-season work. You have somebody like Coach Feld in there, who's a crazy guy personified, who's getting these guys all pumped up. And I think next week, when we do our show next week, we'll have a much, much better barometer on everything, because there's bound to be a few injuries and bumps and bruises because they're in pads. I think that the competition now, as you get closer to the opening of the season, is going to get greater. There's going to be more pressure. There's going to be a lot more put on these guys, no matter what position it is. But I think the focal point starts looking at wide receiver and linebacker, because you need to have somebody productive coming out of this camp that's going to be able to more than fit in. And I think that we talked about this last year when Rambo had an awesome summer camp, and he established himself as the number one guy. So when the season started, everybody kind of knew their role. I don't think it's going to be like that. I think we go into the season. I don't think they're going to have a clear-cut number one, because remember, well, even against Bethune, it doesn't matter. If somebody's hitting you, there's always going to be some opposition. So I think you're going to find out a lot about these guys. They may look good now, but once they strap it up and the other team's not going to hold up on plays, you're going to see what you're made of. And I think that those first 2 games are going to be essential. And thank goodness we have those games, because last year you jumped right out of the deal into the game against Alabama. I think the year before that was LSU. So you have to understand that Miami's got some wiggle room now, and they could test the waters in the first couple of games and to see who they have. So I think this year really plays a lot better. And to answer your question right now, a lot of enthusiasm, and a week from now, we're gonna have a lot of answers.
Really quick before we keep going, big shout out to everybody in the chat: Anthony, Les, Fish Fan Miami, Pimp Down, TR30 Will, Gary, everybody else. Damn, it feels good to be a King. We appreciate you guys on. Yeah, so I want to get to this question, and then we'll talk about our sponsor really quick, and then we'll ask a couple more questions to John, and we'll let you get out of here, John. I know you're probably a pretty busy guy. You got a couple shows this week too, so um, pretty excited about that. Anyways, yeah, I think our biggest weakness are our linebackers. They will need time to play together. Who do you see starting from less? Look, are you guys? And I'll ask this to all four of you. We'll go really quick around the horn on this. Are you all kind of intrigued, or are you surprised to see that the first guys going out there at practice were Corey Flagg and Wayman Steed, and I think it was Keontre. I think it was Keontre Smith, who were the three, if I'm not mistaken, the first three to go out there with the ones. Are you guys surprised by that? Vish, I'll actually start with you on this. Are you surprised by that?
A little bit. I mean, they have the most experience kind of in-game playing there, so it's, I guess, not entirely surprising that they're there. But we knew it was a position of weakness. You get all these new coaches in there. That's kind of what we rolled out last year. Yeah. So you definitely expected something different. And I will say though, that's how they started camp. I'd be more surprised if that's how they finish.
DJ, how do you feel about that? Those three guys. Well, I like Keontre. I think Keontre's probably going to be a starter either way. He's gained some weight. He's at a good, healthy 230 pounds. That's a good size for a linebacker now. When he started, he was 202 pounds. Look at him now. So, Are you surprised by Flagg and Steed more than anything?
A little bit, because like Vish kind of alluded to, I thought a new coaching staff would mean maybe a new look, or at least trying out a new trio, so to speak. I mean, it'll be interesting to see, like Vish said, what this will look like at the end of things, but I was actually very surprised that those three trotted out at the linebacker position. Linebacker hasn't exactly been something that we have been able to hang our hat on over the past couple of seasons, so who knows? I'm not the coach, but I was surprised. I'll just say that.
Did you see Flagg and Steed as your top two guys at linebacker coming into fall camp?
No, I didn't. I have the guys right behind them. Actually, by the time the season starts, I have them starting. But I kind of get why the coaching staff did that. I don't think the staff wanted to come in and just, for example, Caleb Johnson. That's a transfer they just brought in. I don't think they just wanted to go with their guys, without them having played it down as Hurricanes. Just throw them out there, because that makes the other guys feel like, the guys that were starters last year feel like, well, you don't matter. You're kind of going by the wayside. No, you are starters coming in. Go out there, run with the ones, and these guys are going to compete with you. Caleb Johnson, we just brought you in. Prove it. Prove to us why we brought you in. Like, we're going to make you earn it. That's kind of how I took it. It's just competition. End of it, though, are those the guys that are going to be on top? We'll see. I don't think so. I think it's going to be Keontre and Caleb, as opposed to Steed and Corey. But I think they're all going to get heavy rotations, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Blue, I know that not only are you a fan of Wayman Steed, I think we all are a fan of Wayman Steed. He's been through a lot here at the University of Miami, right? With injuries. But he's a guy that came in very talented, very fast, right? Sideline to sideline, decent size, a little bit short, but pretty good player. Just has had issues with injuries and that sets you back. It is what it is. Other players come in and they play, they practice. Naturally, that's what's going to happen. But we did see him get some more playing time last year. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on Steed and Flagg. Primarily being the ones. And again, obviously, this is all going to change or might change. But were you surprised to see those two guys out there first?
Well, I was, and I'll play off what Bish and John said. The reason why they're there is they're experienced guys. Flagg led the linebacking quarter in tackles. You got a guy like Wayman Steed, who, like I said, when he was coming out of Miami Central, I thought the world of him. Very intelligent kid, as you said, very athletic, injury prone in high school. It's kind of followed him into college, but. Yeah, while I was surprised, I'm not shocked, because we're not talking that this is, and especially as anybody, as our question was posed to us, a linebacker is a weak spot here. There's, it's tough to find frontline players, let alone depth. And do I think that Caleb Johnson's going to be there at the end? Keontra? Yeah, I do. But this is the time for both Flag and Wayman to show that, hey, coach, even though maybe they outplayed me a little bit, I'm ready to come just if I need to, in that rotation, I'm ready to go. Or they may steal the show like Flag did last year. Flag, I'll tell you what, on a team that was as poor tackling as they've been in years, he actually was a fairly dependable guy, to tackle. So to answer the question directly, surprised, yes, but not blown away. I mean, if somebody like, Van Dyke wasn't in there at the beginning, I'd been blown away, so that's, but it's a need position, just like offensive line, probably more so, because, next year at this time, we won't be talking like this because you're going to have a lot more depth in there. But yeah, I was a little bit surprised, but as Vish alluded to, let's see what happens in the next 2 weeks. Let's see what happens this week, because now the plays have to be made.
Right.
Before, all you did was touch people, and now you have to make tackles, and now you have to come and bring it.
Think about this, right? Here's where it sounds a little bit better. So let's just think about it this way, right? Like your first team linebackers are hypothetically, this is how it could play out, right? You got Caleb Johnson in the middle, and then you've got Keontra on one side and potentially Chase Smith on the other side, who, by the way, has been probably one of the more impressive linebackers so far. Him and Caleb Johnson in practice have been some of the more impressive linebackers. So imagine those are your top three. And then your second team is Corey Flagg, who's been a 2-year starter here, more or less.
Right.
And you got Wayman Steed, who has a lot of experience. He's been here 17 years. I think he's 38 years old now.
37, I think.
37. Yeah. You're right. And then you've got another one who has been very impressive in camp as well, is Wesley Basainth, who's a freshman.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about having a two deep of those 6 guys, not too bad.
No.
Not too bad. Not too bad at all. I think it sounds a little bit better that way. And then you throw in next year, you throw in Popo, and you throw in Malik Bryan, and you throw in potentially some other guys. Now you're talking about building that depth. And, and if Avery Huff ever figures it out, which, athletically, there's not too many just as a 6'3", 210, 215 pounds. He's got the potential. He just has to put it all together. He could be a guy that comes in, if he figures it out. That would be interesting to see as well. So I think that it's starting to shape up. It's still going to be the quote unquote weakest position, I think, on defense. But I think that with that too deep, you're doing okay. You're doing okay.
Yeah.
Could be a lot worse, right? Could be 2021. So
have we thrown out the idea of James Williams going to the Sam or what?
Well, that's another thing, right? So Flo mentioned this on Sunday.
We do have a couple of questions. Actually, that's a good segue.
I
thought we were going to do the ad read, so I was holding off on this. But Ember did ask the question.
Might as well. Yeah. What 2 safeties do you have starting? Well, that's another question, right?
I think it layers into. I think that question answers itself if
James Williams has been the most impressive safety, the most impressive defensive back in camp so far. And yes, and Flo mentioned it. I don't know, John, if you heard him say this, John, but as long as you call him a safety, you can put him anywhere on the field. But make sure that James, if you're hearing this, which you're not, just like in Flo's show, you're a safety, man. You can just play anywhere you want on the field. Yes, I can see him coming down and being in the box more. John, how do you feel about who are your 2 starting safeties right now, and what do you do with the third? That's a good question.
Starting safeties are Cam and Avante, and James. Whenever one of those guys needs a break, you rotate them in at safety and keep that rotation going to keep those guys fresh. And if you want all 3 on the field, drop them into the box, drop them in as a blitz, put them in there and run stopping situations or, things like that. Or where you want just a third pass coverage guy out there. Because, the way football in general works now is you need more fast guys out there on defense. So why not play with James Williams?
You need James Williams on the field, though, man. I don't know how you can keep him off the field. You got to put him at the star. If he's not going to be one of your safeties, you got to put him at the star. And I don't see him coming off the field.
I think all 3 of them need to be on the field somehow. So I think
I agree.
Figure that out.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough because Cam Kitchens is definitely your prototype, your free safety. That guy's a stud. That kid's a stud. So,
Oh yeah.
it's a good problem to have again. And then you got Brian Balaam, who's coming back from injury, who a lot of people don't realize, but he is a really, really good football player. So you've got him as well back there. So I think it's gonna be, excuse me, it's gonna be fun to watch. Really quick before we finish off with John. Actually, John, you know what? Let's finish off with one more question with John, and then you get to hear the read, and then we'll give you a shout out. Last question about camp practice, because we'll probably end with this on camp practice either way. For me, as the wide receivers, right? I think that's one of the most important positions because, as Blue mentioned earlier, right, we were able to rely on Charleston Rambo a lot last year, Mike Harley last year as well. Those guys, oh, damn. By the way, I don't know, Blue. I don't know. What do you want to do with that? You let me know. The wide receivers. So the question was, who's going to step up as your wide receiver one? Number one. Number two, who are your top three guys? Right. So there was another article out that said that Jacoby George may have dropped a couple passes in the first 15 minutes of that the media was able to watch. Come on, let's be realistic. Like at the end of the day, then I read another article the other day, yesterday, I believe, that said Jacoby George was the best wide receiver on the field so far in camp. So I mean, we're talking about right now it being Xavier Restrepo, if you ask me, who's having a hell of a camp so far. Jacoby George is, according to reports, is having a hell of a camp. And then you got everybody else battling. Romello Brinson looks good. You've seen video of Kobe Young. You've seen Frank Ladson get reps with the ones. You've seen so many different guys. Brashard Smith is arguably the fastest guy on the team, period. So he's kind of that Swiss Army knife that can do just about anything. I mean, it's right now, I think that there's a lot of talent on that field. Keyshawn Smith, I didn't even mention, who's potentially our wide receiver one, John. What do you see happening with this wide receiver position? We did mention that we thought, me and Vish thought it was Jacoby George, Xavier Restrepo, and who was the third guy, Vish? Do you remember?
Was it Keyshawn?
It was Keyshawn Smith. And then Blue and Danny thought it was Ladson replacing Jacoby George. It was still Brashard Smith and Keyshawn Smith. What's your take on the wide?
Give him time.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
You haven't hit yet. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
You haven't had a chance to not catch a ball.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. What's your take on the wide receiver position, John, and camp, and what can you see happening there?
Well, first of all, the good thing is, as of these last few years, is you're coming in with a group of guys where I would be shocked if someone doesn't emerge. Whereas before, you were kind of wondering who the hell's going to be the guy. No one's really shown you that many flashes. They've had the drop issues. This group of guys with who you've brought in the transfer portal and who's going into their sophomore year, which, by the way, a lot of those guys got valuable playing time as freshmen, which is huge. So you got a group of guys that you're like, someone has to step up. There's no way someone doesn't step up. And with this quarterback and this offensive coordinator, someone has to step up. If I can give a prediction of who it's going to be, right now, from what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing, it's going to be one of either Jacoby or Keyshawn Smith. It's going to be one of those two guys. That's my opinion.
As wide receiver one.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think it's a bad assumption, I guess, a bad guess, a bad analysis, a bad evaluation. I think you could be right there. Before we keep it moving here, John, let them know what you got going on every week, because I know you got multiple shows. You're also with Flo on Sunday nights. Talk to them, man.
Yes. Well, you got the Cafecito and Kane show 2 days a week, Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, 7:30, 8 around there, usually, depending on my schedule. Wanted to have a Cafecito with me. I didn't. It's also late at night. I wouldn't be able to fall asleep. But yes, 2 days a week, Tuesday and Thursday. And then when the season starts, I may shift one of those days to Saturday morning, because I experimented with like a little pregame show last year, Saturday mornings, and it did what I thought. So I could go back to doing that. And of course, as a lot of the people in the chat Flo's co-host on Sunday night, so catch me there as well.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah, definitely make sure you guys catch him on all his slots there. Cafecito and Canes is an awesome show, so we definitely highly recommend that as well. John, thank you so much for coming on. Feel free to stick around in the background and listen to this beautiful ad that we got coming up from our friends over at Manscaped.
Sounds
Oh,
good.
there we go.
Our friends over at Manscaped. Let's give them a shout out. Here we go. We do appreciate it, by the way, Manscaped. Here it is. If you haven't heard already, it's Smooth Sack Summer. When you're playing in the summer sun, make sure you're scaped from the pubes to your bum. That's right. This is the summer to keep your balls cool while still looking hot with Manscaped. The leader in below the belt grooming is making sure we have a ball this summer by giving our pants partners everything they need to stay fresh. Dive headfirst into Smooth Sack Summer by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with our code 5RSN. That's the number 5RSN, and you receive 20% off plus free shipping with that code. So make sure you guys go to manscaped.com for that. They've got the Performance Package 4.0, has everything you need. It includes their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, the Crop Preserver, ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your goodies. By the way, did I mention that this trimmer is waterproof too? Beach, lake, or shower, this razor will keep you cool. This not only that, but you can have the perfect haircut. Use Manscaped's liquid formulation to keep freshness even in the hottest barbecues, guys. So when you're at your barbecues, make sure you're using Manscaped. All right. Again, waterproof trimmers. They reduce foot odor. I don't know how they do that, but they do it. Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer helps reduce nicks, reduce the risk of ingrown hairs, reduce the risk of grooming accidents as well. So make sure you go to manscaped.com, insert the code 5RSN. That's the number 5RSN, the letters 5, the number 5, the letters RSN, and get 20% off plus free shipping with manscaped.com.
Great product. Let me tell you something. I still got mine. They sent us, me and Alex, 2 years ago. And tell you what, I was going to bring up the shower part. That's the best.
See, it works, guys. This is not just. We're not just. Listen, we're not just reading this. All right, we
use it.
We use it. Yeah. All right.
And I'm pretty sure the way the foot deodorant is how they deal with the foot odor. Jazz, you asked the question. I think that's right.
Well, there you go. The foot deodorant.
There is a foot deodorant product.
So. John, I thought you get a kick out of that out of our new sponsors there, Manscaped. We do appreciate it. You guys are the best.
You know you've made it when you got Manscaped as a sponsor.
That's it.
That's it. That's all we needed. That's all we needed. John, thank you so much for coming on the show again, my brother. Always welcome, man.
Thank you, DJ, Vish, and Larry. Catch you guys next time.
Make sure you go to Manscaped and get your gear, all right?
All right.
Later.
Gary does have a special request of you, Jazz.
I believe it. Free consultation with Jazz on your first order.
Wow.
I think that I'm gonna pass on that, but Gary, feel free to take my spot, man.
Damn.
Yeah, I just bought some trimmers. Well, you see, you should have waited.
Timing is everything in life.
You can still go, man. You'll get 20% off. Manscaped.com, 5RSN. Gary, make sure you do it too, man. I know you don't believe it, but I don't know if we can put that comment up. But
I'm not doing the other Gary one. That one's staying in the chat. You guys can all read it.
It's after 9:00. I mean,
it is after 9, but family show.
Oh man, family show. Speaking of family show, Fish Fan Miami says James is a safety who plays all over the field. I agree. He can play all over the field. He's exciting to watch, and I think that it's so fun. Blue, again, before we get to wide receivers, it's so fun to be able to talk about these players and say, well, what about him? And what about him? And what about this guy? Like, we haven't really spoken like that in a while about this team. And I don't know if it's just a product of the way that Mario and his whole entire staff has kind of put this together and set it all up, even with the transfers, with the players that are coming back and how excited they are. You kind of see a different life to them. And maybe it's a little bit of everything, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. But you're exactly right about James Williams, and was a criticism of Pat Surtain when he had him at American Heritage, that he kept him so far away from the action. That's why he finished his last year playing in the box, because he's got great ball skills. I mean, this guy could actually, not only does he hit like a truck, but he has great. He catches the ball. He's going to be. He's lethal. I just like him more in the action. Now we'll see how Miami's scheme is. Like Cam Kitchens, this is a guy that when he was coming out of high school and they recruited him and he committed, people are asking me, "What do you think about this?" I said, "This guy's got a chance to be as good as anybody they've had." And I feel the same way about James. I think James brings more to the table because he's 6'5", and then the kid, and I saw he got a whole lot bigger. That weight room has been just huge to him. And that's why I'm saying, you never know at that. I mean, the big safety in college football, the Lewis Olivers, the David Fulchers, the Cam Chancellors, players like that really have gone by the wayside. There's not a lot of them anymore that are really, really big. I think James is going to bring that back. I mean, you look back at some of those big guys who were not only safeties that could cover and they had the agility to cover, but they also could hit you like a linebacker. And that's what James is like. And he's a prototype. There's not a lot of them in college. I can't think of anybody now that's 6'5", that plays
I
that
think
position.
the last guy we saw that was like 6'5", Taylor Mays out of USC.
Well, no,
right?
but yeah, that's true.
That was
I mean, they've had
But you don't
guys.
see those, like you say. You don't see
No,
those too much.
no, you're right. I mean, it's just because when they get that big, okay, you look at Javon Curse. He's a perfect example that when he was a linebacker and a safety in high school and at the University of Florida, but when he got into the NFL, they put him down because he was 6'5", 250, 245. James is going to be like that. And if he could hold that position with that weight, that's going to be amazing because I'm trying to think Steve Atwater, who used to play for the Denver Broncos. He may have been that last big bodied guy who was in the 225, 230 range that has had the agility and the ball skills. Remember, there's like Miami when they get Ray and all these guys in there, most likely safeties are going to have to pick them up if he's in the slot position. So, yeah, that's why it's a Cam Chancellor. That's why it's a Cam Kitchens or Avante Williams, because they're good sized kids, but they're not 6'5".
Another guy that we can probably put in that mix. He was a guy who wore number 26 for the Miami Hurricanes at one point, and could have possibly been the best ever. Unfortunately,
a number that they're not giving out right now.
A number that they're not giving out number 1 either. By the way, 1 and 26 are not being used as of right now. That could change, but as Mario said, they want to honor that number, not retire it. So they're gonna make sure they give it to the right person. So
sure,
that's really cool. We've got like 2 or 3 minutes because I want Larry to give us a recap of Media Day real quick before we finish this off. But I want to get your take, DJ and Vish, on the wide receiver position and the defensive ends. If you can do that really quick in a couple minutes, we'll start with you, DJ.
Wide receiver position, I was just looking at some videos from Frank Ladson today. He was moving really well, so I'm curious to see where he fits into this equation as well. We kind of talked about uncertainty. We mentioned some names, but we still need to see production on the field. I think Ladson can bring production, and he's looked really smooth. And then defensive end, for me, it's not so much names. It's just about can they continue to bring pressure this season. We have all these names like Cyrus Moss, the freshman, for the future, but I want to see if that position can get a viable pass rush right now because it's all about building depth, and the defensive end position, in my opinion, is one of the most important positions on that side of the football.
Vish, first, I think let's mention Darrell Jackson, who's, by the way, quite possibly going to be the biggest human being that's ever played at Miami or that's played here in a very, very long time. Kind of reminiscent of Calais Campbell. And also Nigel Lee Kelly, who seems to be playing lights out even as a freshman now, getting around the corner, rushing the quarterback. He's doing some really good things. Talk to me about that defensive line. What you've kind of been excited about, because not only that, right? This line is legitimately 3 deep. I mean, you can mix and match for days on this line. Liechtenstein and Mesidor and Gerald Jackson and Mitcha Gude and Harvey and Hunt and Tent Taylor, and the list goes on. Liechtenstein, the list goes on and on and on and on. Now this is one of the deepest and possibly one of the best positions on this football team and in the conference as well. Talk to me a little bit about that and kind of the wide receiver position as well.
Yeah, just on the defensive line. So obviously, you kind of ran through the names. I still think that the next step for that position is Jafari Harvey putting it together consistently. He's flashed it. I'm obviously excited about Nigel Lee Kelly's future. I think it's a lot to put on a freshman to play with his hand on the ground and against 21-year-olds that have been in some of them, with the COVID year not counting, some of these kids are old, frankly, and there's just a big body difference. It doesn't matter how big you are, so I think it's asking a lot for him to do that. But I think Jafari Harvey is ready to kind of be an every down impact player, and I think once you mentioned all the talent there. If you can get one guy that dominates, that draws the double team, it opens the rest of the lineup, and there's enough talent there to take advantage. So that's where I'm looking there. And then the other thing, DJ ran through some of the position battles. One of the things we kind of gloss over because he's so obviously locked the position. No, but we're basically going to start 3 wide receivers, and the slot guy is definitely Restrepo. Like, there's not even a doubt there, right? I mean, so that's good to have. So we talked a lot about who's the number 1. It might be him. I know you normally don't associate a slot guy as that, but he's going to be a handful to cover.
Yeah. What about a tight end being the number 1?
True, Mallory as well. Yeah,
Mallory. Elijah Arroyo lost some weight, and he's quicker now. He's stronger. He's going to be interesting. And by the way, just to kind of go back to James Williams, Blue, he has gotten stronger and bigger, but he's lost weight. He actually lost, I think, like 5 pounds, which is crazy. He's under 220 now, but he's bigger and he's stronger. And he's faster, which is unbelievable. So I think he's going to have a huge year. I can't wait for Darrell Jackson on the defensive line, and I really cannot wait to see what Jared Harrison Hunt does, because apparently he's been playing really well in camp too. So it's going to be interesting. We got a couple of minutes here. Blue, I think it's important to kind of mention, first of all, before we even mention that, Connor Lew, another big-time pickup by the University of Miami, number 1 safety in the country, which boggles my mind that kid was ranked out of like the top 600 or 700 in the whole country, being the number 1 center in the country. It's ridiculous to me. I mean, he had offers from – he picked us. His top 4 was Auburn, Georgia, Clemson, and Miami.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. I know Auburn's kind of been down a little bit the last couple of years. That's a big-time SEC school as well. And then you got the defending national champs, and then the number 4 or 5 team in the country in Clemson and Miami. And Miami got him. And that kid is a kid that's going to anchor a national championship team and national championship offensive line here. So be on the lookout for Connor Lew. The recruiting train keeps moving. Media Day, Blue, you got a couple minutes here before we go. How was Media Day? Both in all the counties, everywhere you were like at 60 different places.
Yeah, well, 59, but that's who's counting. It was a good time. It was professionally run, just like like ACC or SEC Media Days. I'll talk about the South Florida stops that we had. We were in West Palm Beach at Kaiser University. They rolled out the welcome mat. Had an opportunity to see a lot, and all the schools brought their top flight kids. In Broward, we were at Pompano Beach High School. St. Thomas brought all their guys. American Heritage is loaded with defensive backs. The kid Damon Fagan and some of the other players as well. And then Miami-Dade, really, I mean, you had 60 schools, and everybody came. Miami Central. Joe Rose was there, and he had a chance to talk to Reuben Bain. Which was nice. Awesome. They had both looked forward, because Joe talks about him a lot on his show. And it was a good time, guys. It was a real good time, professionally run. I enjoyed it. And before I leave, I want to tell you this. The nicest guy ever has to be Will Mallory. If you listen to him during days, this guy complimented everybody from his fellow tight ends to the lady that makes the hamburgers in the darn cafeteria. What the nicest guy ever. And he kept saying that that this is the best tight end room, that by next year it'll be the best. And he just wants to leave a legacy to the guys coming in. So you can't say enough about that guy.
That's awesome. Because by the way, next year you will have an awesome tight end group with Skinner and Riley Williams and obviously Elijah Arroyo. That's going to be fun to watch. Sure. Thank you guys, everybody, for joining us. Or even better profession. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody on the chat. We do appreciate it. We appreciate John coming in from Cafecito and Canes as well. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at 6ringscanes. Subscribe to our YouTube channel on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. We're probably going to have to switch the time here. We might have to start earlier now with football season getting going. But we will have some extra and exclusive content coming at you very soon with Larry Belusi, myself, Vish, DJ. All of us will be talking about some really cool stuff. Vish, you got something to say there before we go?
Yeah, just might need to start earlier because we're running into the F1 show now.
Yeah, hurry up, man.
Make sure you check us out. Hitting the Apex is coming at you now on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel, so keep it locked still there. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. Adios, go Canes.